Welcome to the STEM Career Coach, hosted by Donnie McClary. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, this is your guide to growing in STEM. In this bonus episode of the STEM Career Coach, we're answering one powerful question. How do I grow as a STEM leader? We begin with Telle Whitney, whose decades of experience in tech and leadership offer a masterclass in mentorship, sponsorship, and inclusive growth.
Mentorship and sponsorship are both, two forms of mentorship that are really critical to to nurturing that next generation. We've always had mentors, but many of the leaders from the past find people that look like them, and with consciously or unconsciously, they spend time trying to nurture that talent. And so when people look differently, that's when mentoring programs can be the most effective, because you're breaking these unconscious barriers of how to mentor the next generation. And, all of my mentors were men, or up till a few years ago, at least, because the people who had what I wanted, the people who could tell me how to get where I needed to go, were men. Because there just weren't that many women. Over time, I also found mentors that were women, and they are some of the most important people in my life. You also want to think about sponsors, because the sponsor is the person in your organization, hopefully not working in the same line of command, but that can help you get that position that you didn't even know existed.
Telle reminds us that leadership starts with listening and with lifting others. But what happens when you step into broader roles? Sumesh shares how scaling your mindset is just as important as scaling your output.
I think the ability to scale, and the ability to scale not just systems and processes, but the sort of a more cohesive approach across the organization, the ability to scale the organization, scale the thought process, scale talent, like all of these become, incrementally important as tech leaders go up the career ladder, so to speak, right? And I think, it's not just about, doing more, and very often, I think we confuse, hard work for effectiveness, right? Lots of people put in long hours, but, as you move up and take on bigger and broader leadership roles, for me, it's not just about, doing more, but it's also about thinking better, right? And, constantly asking, do we need to do it this way? Constantly asking why or why not, and the ability to, think better, evolve your thought process at a level that is required for your next, leadership role. And that I think, it also goes very well with a piece of career advice, that I once got, is you need to act based on the role you want, not the role that you're in.
Sumesh challenges us to think bigger and act for the role we want. Salman picks up the thread, reflecting on how mentorship gave him the confidence to show up, speak up, and grow.
Mentorship, I think, having a good mentor, touching base with them regularly, that's completely understated. I had some good mentors, and they really kind of enabled me and facilitated me and said, look, nothing's wrong with going and mentioning this to someone, I thought was way out of my league. But, having a good mentor or a few mentors that give you the confidence to be better every day is completely understated. I think showing up is also important. So, kind of being, in the office the same time your boss is. I'm a big fan of that, because you never know, right? That they just kind of turn over and be like, oh, you're there. Can you do this, right? 90% is just showing up.
Salman's story shows that leadership begins with presence. Henry takes us deeper into the long game with advice on career mapping, leading by example, and building resilient teams.
I always really suggest and encourage the youngsters, looking for a job, is to really have that roadmap written up, and with each steps, what they try to achieve, how much they don't even know how much a CEO earns in their industry. I think this should be a motivation, to when they get there, and how do you find the fastest way to get there? We go back to always basics. I think all the CEO or colleagues I see, they are the last one to come in the office. They are the first one to go home, and when there is an issue, nobody wants to front it, so they let their junior to front this. And I think this is a totally, I would say, unacceptable. And you'd be surprised, if your turnover of staff is high. When I was in Beijing, I had quite a large team, and we had the lowest turnover ever, because I always make sure, we bring, we send them, first of all, to learn a lot of new things overseas, we consult to train them. And they see me always the first one in the morning and the last one to go.
Henry's leadership style is grounded in consistency and clarity. Fergus adds a global lens, showing how hiring for attitude and empowering local talent can transform a team.
Hire the best, surround yourself with the best people, all right? Listen more than you speak, all right? Formulate your thoughts. It will take time. Motivate and empower people. And also let's not forget, attitude sometimes is more important than any technical skill.
Fergus reminds us that trust and empowerment are the foundations of great leadership. Sabina closes the episode with bold advice on scaling leadership by saying less and listening more.
So if you want to grow other people, if you want them to bring in ideas, so you're not carrying that whole burden yourself and allowing yourself and others to scale up, shut up. When it comes to idea generation, be the third or the fourth person to speak, never the first. And the other is, one thing that gets in the way of our listening are our own ideas.
As you look at those people around you, you want to make sure that you're hearing different ideas and that you're not just choosing people who look and act like you. And, we talk about that as diversity, but it's really diversity of thought. It's cognitive dissonance of finding ideas that really challenge your own thinking. And once again, great leaders find that they are going after these kinds of suggestions that aren't just comfortable.
So what if you started taking notes in the margin? Okay, I'm going to write this down. Okay, I'm going to write that down. And then when you're the third, fourth person to speak, or even the last person to speak, you can check against those notes to see what somebody else has already brought up. So you can just bring up the things that are unique to your contribution.
I mean, that is where great leaders are different from other leaders, many of whom we've all met. But it's listening, but also having a vision of where they wanted to take their innovation. So it's not that you take every idea, but you listen carefully and figure out how to go forward.
That has the added benefit of everyone leaving the meeting feeling smart versus it just being your show. So if you want to grow other people, if you want them to bring in ideas, so you're not carrying that whole burden yourself and allowing yourself and others to scale up, shut up.
Leadership in STEM isn't just about expertise. It's about mentorship, mindset, and making space for others to grow. Thank you for listening to the STEM Career Coach with Donnie McClary. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more inspiring stories and actionable tips. Catch you next time.